This is the High School Crossfire. Welcome back.
The youth start from primary level. And that is where we are trying to integrate this vocational training, ladies and gentlemen. If the youth are going to be trained when they're already grown, how are they going to get these skills? It is better we get them from a young stage when they are still children, start to integrate it in their education. And education is almost compulsory in Uganda. Ladies and gentlemen, they come and talk about lack of capital as a problem. We are saying the funding is going to be gotten from student loans. We are partnering with the World Bank, which sponsors most of the education in Uganda. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to start from a young age in primary level, upper primary, from primary 5 to primary 7. It is very sustainable because these are the grassroots of youth in Uganda. Ladies and gentlemen, they come and talk about how we are going to identify non-compliant people. And ladies and gentlemen, we give them an answer. In Uganda, we have the NERA, which is in charge of registration. Roll calls in such workshops and schools, because most of these people, we are taking our training institutions at school, so they will be able to be found. Yes, accepted.
Who are the youth according to the affirmative case?
The youth are people between 18 to 30, but the youth's training is going to begin when they are still at the grassroots level. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not going to give strong punishments to such people. Rather, we are going to encourage them to choose because they need passion to do this vocational training. Ladies and gentlemen, to continue, we do not disagree with sensitization. Sensitization is very important to this cause. In fact, teachers are going to sensitize parents, the masses, and students to develop that passion. Because the major problem they talk about is also stigmatization. This stigma indeed is a great problem. But what we are doing is sensitization. And also, when we inculcate it at such a young age, children are going to be able to build the love for it, to understand it. And that is where also personal choice comes in. It is mandatory. It is mandatory. But at a level in secondary, they are going to have to choose one of their own choice. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why we are making it mandatory is very simple. There are very high chances of school dropout. What if they drop out and they have nothing to do? This biology, physics they read will not help them. But these skills, practical skills, will be able to come in there. They'll be able to survive, be self-reliant, ladies and gentlemen. We already know the agency they were talking about. 45% of learners in primary drop out. All the statistics, we gave them to them. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we're talking about sensitization, which will be done to improve the love for it and take away stigmatization. Then, the youth who are already in the financial crisis, making it compulsory and mandatory for them to undergo this training is actually also going to help them. We are going to look at majorly agricultural courses, because agriculture has a lot of practical things in it, so it is a vocation. This is not only going to give them food, enable them to sustain themselves, it's going to give them local productivity and be able to get income, personal income, and pay revenue that we much desire. Ladies and gentlemen, we have many educated but unemployed people. And according to the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, 41% of youth out of school are unemployed. Imagine if we made vocational training a mandate, they would have something to hold on to. But if you play around with this gold that we have, vocational training, which can help them, what will they turn to? Who will they blame? Ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 taught us a very good lesson. People sat down and had nothing to do. What did they turn to? ICT, agriculture, handiwork, crafts. This is where they got their money. If you try to play around with it, a few people, who knows how many people want to go for it if it is optional? This is a grave matter which needs to be addressed to everyone and in a compulsory way. That is why we are making it mandatory. Ladies and gentlemen, the DIT program, Directorate of Industrial Training Program, failed because it was hasty. But for us, we're giving you a timely approach, which will take 6 months, but they say 3 years. Ours is better. We rest our case.
Resolved, in the bid to fight financial crisis among the youth, this House will make vocational training mandatory. So dear panel, the August House at large, these are the points of clash in today's resolution. The first point of clash is the word mandatory. So what do we have from Team Affirmatives? Team Affirmatives come and tell us that they want to make vocational training in Uganda mandatory, but they don't even tell us the reasons why they should make it mandatory. They just come up and give us the reasons why vocational training is important, and we didn't disagree with them. We told them it's important, but the problem in this status quo is not the mandatory, is not the lack of mandatory vocational training. We come up and we tell them that the problems facing these vocational institutions, actually, we have things like stereotypes, access, equity, equality. So dear panel, and we tell them that the rate of people getting enrolled in these vocational institutes is actually high. Very many people are opting for it. But for them, they still fail to understand. So we are trying to tell them, we shouldn't make it mandatory. But they come and tell us they want to make it mandatory, but they don't tell us why they want to make it mandatory. So that is the first point of clash. So they didn't even give us a time frame for their work. The third speaker came up and in his speech he told us 6 months. But the first speaker, second speaker, didn't tell us anything about 6 months, dear panel, ladies and gentlemen.
Point of information.
So, granted.
Do you want the problem to first come, then you cure, or you want to cure it before it comes?
That's why we are adopting our policy. We're trying to tell you that we don't want to make it mandatory. So dear panel, they come up and then they don't give us even the benefits of their type of their model, dear panel, ladies and gentlemen. So what do we have? Dear panel, we tell them that the problems facing the vocational training institutes in the country, we have stereotypes. People have a biased perspective of these vocational institutes. They think that it is actually for the people who are failures. So by the time that the people have a perspective that people who go for these institutions are actually people who have academic failures, well, that's why we come up with sensitization through cultural and religious leaders. We tell them that the access to this vocational institute is actually a problem. And we give you statistics of Daily Monitor of 22nd August 2021, where Mr. Godfrey Macho told us that there's uneven distribution of veterinary, of vocational training institutions in Uganda. We tell them about the equity, that not everybody can afford this, and the quality, the financial literacy, which will be included in vocational institution. So what does the first speaker tell us? The first speaker come up and tell us that the House is the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education and Sports in partnership, and give us the other partners. But now, we want to ask them about the funding. Who is going to fund the policy? We come and tell them that the Ministry of Education's budget this financial year is 1.842, which was cut down from last year it was 1.92, but this year it was cut down. So we tell them that their policy will not be able to be funded. And they continue, and then the third speaker come and tell us that they're going to bring up study loans and the World Bank. But dear panel, it's the third speaker coming up. Where did the first speaker come? Where did the second speaker never told us anything about that? Even the first speaker didn't tell us anything about that. And okay, let's take them at that best case. The World Bank is going to fund them. What is Uganda? What is the World Bank stance on Uganda right now? World Bank is not willing to fund Uganda right now. So their policy is actually going to lack funders, dear panel. And the study loans they didn't talk about. I want to ask them these questions in their policy. So, since you're making it mandatory, there is a high chance of non-compliance. What are the punishments for non-compliance among the youth? What are you going to punish someone who doesn't comply with your policy? And how will you kill the negative stereotypes among the youth on vocational training? And do courses on vocational training institutes favor the youth choices? And what guarantees do you have that the youth are interested in the vocational training that you're giving them? And another question I want to ask you, does Uganda have the capability of sustaining 34 million youth that are in the vocational institutes? We tell you that the schools are not enough in the whole country, but that they fail to understand. And in their policy, don't tell us that they're going to build more schools or what. So dear panel, ladies and gentlemen, we also want to continue. So they come up and then they tell us they actually didn't address the need for the urgency in this case. That's why, dear panel, we want to tell you that vocational institutes is actually shouldn't be made mandatory because the people have to study, and because of our policy, they come up and then they tell us the youth are people in primary schools. But dear panel, they define for us youth are people from 18 to 35, and they're targeting primary schools. So what does that mean? Yet people in primary schools are actually people from 13 to 16. So dear panel, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say that vocational training should not be made mandatory because it's not the problem in the status quo. We should actually solve the problems in our vocational training institutes because there's high turn up in the current status quo. I beg to rest my case.
This is the High School Crossfire. We'll be back in a minute.